Oh, hi everyone. Just drinking gin and tonic today. Welcome to another live stream here at Lighting Bot. For the new people that are joining, we do topics, as you probably realized, about lighting and everything. And today we have an exciting guest, Harshal. He will be talking a little bit about different topics. We'll be covering a little bit about Unreal Engine 4, 5, CG pipeline, RTX, cinematography, probably talk a little bit about how he does his projects and things like that, as well as mood and story lighting. So we're going to try and cover a lot in an hour because after that I have my mentorship session with my students. So we're going to be very efficient today, as usual, obviously. As usual, feel free to ask your questions. We love questions from you, the viewers. Please do take the time to ask those questions as well. But let's please welcome our new guest today, Harshal, into the stream.
Hey guys, this is Harshal.
Amen.
Um, hey, hi Amit, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So Harshal, let's just like you didn't know much about lighting, but not a
Yeah.
lot of people know about you either. So let's introduce you. Let's hear a little bit about your journey. How did you start? How did you get started down this road, and why did you end up choosing being a real-time creative director?
Okay, so hey guys, so this is Harshal. I'm from India, and I've been primarily working as an Unreal Engine real-time creative director on commercials and cinematic content for different brands around the world. So ever since I was a kid, I was fascinated with art and 3D animation and films. And I have been a traditional artist in the past. And while growing up, I shifted to digital art as I saw the tremendous potential and the possibilities. I also had later on, I learned 3D animation and I was making short films, and I also got into visual effects. So it was quite a journey from being a traditional artist to a digital artist, and then being a 3D artist, and also learning about filmmaking. And it was not until 2016 that I saw the true potential of Unreal Engine, and I actually started learning it back in 2017. Since then, I've been amongst the earliest and the very few people in India that were using Unreal Engine for 3D production, 3D product commercials. And yeah, so today I'll be talking about a few bits of the CG pipeline in Unreal Engine for film and television. And yes, so
Cool.
let's get
Good, man.
started.
Yeah, and don't worry. Don't stress about it. It's just you and me talking, and then people listening in. So why did you specifically though pick? What's your most favorite part of being a real-time creative director? Because when you do this, when we were doing a warm-up earlier, just to help me get an idea, you are doing set dressing, you're doing the cinematography. Are you also doing the lighting as well?
So yes, so good question. So I have been doing the lighting, and I've also been doing the set dressing. As I said, like ever since I've been a kid, I used to love animations and watching films. So my goal was to, being able to do that myself. So I've also been doing the cinematography in all of my projects, even the lighting, of course. So it's like a whole package that I'm trying to become. And yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. So just to introduce you guys, because I see there's a few of you watching, so we might as well show a bit of. Let's start with the show reel, just to give you guys an idea of what we're talking about. And let me just make sure I pick the right video because there's so much stuff I have to keep track of.
Yeah.
Let's say this one should be good. Nice. So that's pretty cool, right? So that people watching, that should give you some ideas of questions to ask yourself, right? Because there's a lot of stuff going on here. There's lighting, there's atmospheres, there is cutscenes, there is, how to use all the cameras, which is not as easy as it sounds all the time. It's quite a lot of work to get the shots correctly. So let's talk a little bit about that, because I had, as I told you earlier, I talked to another Indian real-time cinematographer a few weeks back. He's one of the guest mentors at Lightingbot, because we have other mentors that you get access to when you become a student at Lightingbot, and he's one of them as well. And he, he uses a lot of lights, and I told him, you use way too many lights. It's like thousands of lights. And the way he uses organizes things in Unreal, he has different scenes for different shot, basically, and then he lights it. Now, what's your process? Do you have one main scene and then everything happens in that scene, and you just control everything through the timeline, or do you have different scenes? And also, how many lights do you use?
Okay, good question. So I do create multiple scenes. So most of the time, I do try to create one main scene, uh, which has all the things that I need for that specific. I mean, it's just hard to. But okay, yeah. So there are a lot of scenes which I do create, and most of them are very camera specific. I really don't go around and create that entire environment. Sometimes it's mostly, if I need a shot in this scene, I will only create an environment according to that. So it just saves a lot of time, and you get what you need quite fast. And there's other times I do have one main scene which has everything that I need. So one of my film, The Legacy of Dreams, that was one entire level. I did not have any other levels in that. So the entire story, all the cinematography, lighting, it all happens in that one scene itself. So it all depends on, what your project needs. If there are a lot of different scenes, then you might as well create different levels for it in that same file. It's just easier to access them. And if it's just one scene, then you have nothing to worry about. So you just go get
Cool.
right into it. Yeah.
Right. Makes sense. So I'm just gonna add this in the background unmuted for a while, just so people can rest their eye, but also to help me with some of my questions which you haven't prepared for, because I like asking questions you don't know I'm gonna ask. So, for example, this work here with the car and everything. Um, what did you learn? What was difficult during this project, and what was easy, and what did you end up taking away with you when you were doing this particular one?
Right. So while I was working on this project, I wasn't well versed with the spline, the landscape spline tool. So that was something that I was able to learn on this project, and trying to create a road with the help of that. With the landscape in Unreal Engine. So for me, this project was a learning curve to be able to get the landscape right. And after that, I mean, everything was pretty straightforward. That, I needed some cliffs, I needed a lot of trees and some water bodies. And then the next part was the car. I manually animated the car. Sometimes I usually do that because you have a lot of control over the animation. So many a times I do that. And yeah, and then the lighting. So it was a pretty basic lighting over here. It was mostly like a noontime, not exactly noontime, a little bit later than that, just to create that warm mood where the car is going through the desert, and I just wanted to create a moody scene over here, and try to check out what I can do in terms of desert environments. So it was more like a practice piece for me. So there were just a couple of shots in this.
Cool. How about this one with the?
Okay, yeah. So this one is a pretty heavy scene, and there's a lot of lights in this scene, and this wasn't even done in ray traced and Lumen. It was all rendered in path traced. So I did a lot of few bits of compositing in the post as well. So in this scene, there are probably more than 50 lights or so. So again, so the thing is, to get,
50.
yeah, probably around that,
Okay. Nice.
just to highlight whatever parts that I needed. So there are a few lights on the ground, and then I have put lights on those as well. And then there's a sunlight, there's a skylight, and I tried to get a lot of lights, trying to highlight individual components, because sometimes the bounce light of the sun you don't get the way you want it, but you sometimes you have to fake it. So that's where so many lights came in. And
Hmm.
again, the hanger itself, I wanted to make it look lively. So of course there has to be lights around. So even some of the lights went over there, and you can see that there are different yellow lights and pink lights, red lights. I was trying to get that science fiction look that we get in the films, and the
Right.
games which we see. So yeah.
So you did mention path tracing and ray tracing and lumens. What is your understanding of the differences, the pros and cons of these three different way of using lighting? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so mostly Lumen, now that it's quite new and it's a part of Unreal Engine 5, it's basically you get real time global illumination, infinite bounces of light. So it's a really good tool right now that, and again, you don't need, so previously it was path tracing, which was only able to achieve that. But now this Lumen in Unreal Engine 5, the tool, like it just surpassed the boundaries of what we can create, because it's real time global illumination. You don't have to cheat many of the times. And but with ray tracing, there it's more like an illusion, but you have to find a work around that. So I would so in UE5 I would definitely trust Lumen, and it's much more powerful now, than better than the screen space reflections, or even better than ray trace. I mean, I still believe the team of Epic Games, they still have a bit to work on it, but I'm sure they're gonna fix a lot of stuff in the coming months.
Cool. So you talked a little about earlier in private that 80 to 90% of your work is in Unreal Engine, 10-20 might be in Blender and 3D Studio Max.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that. How's that process and workflow? How do you start this process and how do you finish it?
Yeah. Okay. So, talking about that, let's take this one scene specifically. So, this scene was inspired by the movie Luca, and from the city of Porto Rosso, which was a part of the film. So, it was one of the references that I took from the film, and I tried to recreate it. So, what you said, so the answer lies in this scene right now. So I modeled this in 3ds Max, and then later on, I did not texture it in Substance or 3ds Max at all. I bought it all right in Unreal Engine, and then with the help of Quixel textures, I was able to texture all the buildings and everything that I needed, and then I used the Megascans assets for those, especially the stones and the rocky floor. So again, like after the modeling process, I did not have to rely on anything else. So most of it all happened in Unreal Engine, and again, the lighting was done in Unreal Engine, so it's more like a sunset kind of light. And but again, I had to make sure that it looks like Disney. It has that Disney-esque look to it. So I also tried to achieve that with a lot of different lights. So you can see there are purple lights and there are orange, a little bit reds. So yeah, so most of it all happened in Unreal Engine. And again, like uh, to create something like this, the scene, I was able to do it in 7 hours from modeling to the final product. Like it was that fast. I was able to do it that fast. So this real time thing definitely has a lot of potential, and it helped me visualize things much more faster than it would be like a traditional DCC software.
Cool. So let's have a look here. So when you do all of these work, um, you're rendering it. So you're not really paying attention to frame rate or optimization. You're just making sure it looks gorgeous and according to what you want it to look like, right?
Yeah, that's
So
correct.
but how do you decide what it should look like, right? Because there's mood, there's a story, there's a purpose behind it, as we talked a little bit. Uh, let's talk a little bit about that. What's your workflow and process in deciding? It's gonna be some volumetric light, it's gonna be warm light, and the character's gonna come from the left side, right side. It's gonna be this environment, and how big is the environment? All these things, the foreground, the composition, the leaves on the left, and the dark thing on the right. All of these. There's this consciously thought about. So just to give other people an insight on how much work that goes into this, talk a little bit about that.
All right. So most of the times, I don't have, like a specific thing in my mind, or, like a concept or the way the scene should be looking like. I just know that, I want to do this. I want to create the scene. So I haven't thought about the lighting at this point. I haven't thought about how it's going to look in the end. I just go with the flow. So it's like a step by step process. You just discover that, okay, so maybe I can do this. Maybe I can put a light from this side if it's going to look good, or I need a light from this side. Oh, and then I look at the composition. So again, like when it comes to composition, I kind of use cameras from the initial phase itself. So then I know that maybe I should place a tree over here, a plant or a rock, to create some foregrounding and the backgrounding. So most of it depends on the camera, because as I said, it's very the work that I do, it's mostly cinematic stuff. There's no optimization. It's not for the game. It's very camera specific. So again, it saves a lot of time. And specifically in this shot, what I was trying to do is that the guy comes out of his TV into a different world, and he's just walking out, and he doesn't know what's happening, and he sees something. So that was the whole premise of what I was trying to create. And so according to that, I went on to lighting it, and tried to put the assets according to the way the story needed, basically.
Yeah. So let's have a watch at this properly. Then I'll have to add it into my system here, and we'll have a watch and we'll try and dig deeper a little bit about this. Let's show this.
Hey, Dad. It's been a while since you've left. And things have been tough lately, but I keep coming back here, I still remember the stories of your glorious racing days. Stories of heart, sweat, and blood. This is where you made history, in this garage and these tools. And I still sense your presence, your guiding light. That's exactly how it was since you left. This place, this is where I started dreaming. And in tough times, you said that we can make a fortune selling it if we had to. But we ain't letting it go. This garage, this legacy that you passed on to me, this is my home, my dream, and my future. This is the legacy of dreams.
Oh, let's break this down, because let's analyze this and kind of understand it. So, and then when I say it, I mean from the story to the mood board to the whatever happened, and then all the way from you going in and doing the set dressing. Maybe you bought some assets. Maybe how did you decide everything from the tiniest details to the shot. To okay, I want a little bit of extra side light on this, crowbar or whatever it's called again. What is called wrench. All of these details. So let's talk a little bit about that.
All right. So before I start talking about this, actually, it's a fascinating thing is that the story came after. So so yeah, so I mean, first I was trying to create this garage that I wanted to, but then I was like, it's not, it wasn't cutting it, like there has to be something, there has to be a story. So then the story was, this I involved the story into it, and then it all started to make sense, and the environment started to make sense. Uh, so that's when I started adding all the details and whatever that was needed. And so mostly if you look at this, so it's a very warm scene because I wanted to keep it as it's a moment of nostalgia, for the main character of the film, and when he's talking about his dad. And it's quite psychological for me that sunsets, the warm mood lighting, it makes me feel comfortable and in that space. uh, that's what I wanted to give it for the character in the film. So that's how I decided that, this is how it's going to look. And then again, the character that you see, it's a metahuman. And at this point I didn't have mocap, so I had to animate all of his actions and hands and eyes and everything manually. So that was quite a task. So initially it was just a garage, as I said, and then when the story came later, I started adding all the bits and pieces that were needed for the story. So that's how this was this is the final product that came out of it.
Cool. So, how long does it take you then to do each phase? So let's pretend there's a phase of pre-production, concept, pre-production, and then production, and then maybe some fine-tuning and so on. How long do you spend and do this each process? And do you have other people that you ask for feedback, or is it mostly just you trusting that, okay, this should be good?
Okay, so good question. So basically, working on this entire project, I had to do it individually, because I wanted to have my own inputs, and I wanted it to be an experiment. Uh, there were a lot of things that I learned out of this project. So, and again, so I most yeah, the 99% of the film, I all did it by myself, and the rest of the stuff with the voice actor and the guy who did the foley, and I added music onto it. So it was quite a it took quite a time for me to get this done. And I mean, I did not do this at a stretch. I mean, uh, I did put a lot of time into it. Otherwise, if I had to do something like this at a stretch, so I would take around a week to get a final environment like this made. And then later I would be getting the character and do some detailing in terms of textures, animations, particles. So to get something like this done, now that it's real time, I knew that I could see the product right in front of me. So I didn't have to worry much about how it's going to look after I render it. I was just able to see it right in front of me. So because of this, the process was quite fast. So to create something like this, it could take around a month or a month and a half. Depends on how much time I put into it. Uh, I couldn't put much time into it because I was also working professionally, and then this was my side project. So it definitely took more than 3 months for me to get this done.
And what were the challenges in this project? Because this was probably one of your, I don't know if it was your latest project, but it's one of your more demanding
Yeah.
projects.
Yeah,
So
so this was done, I guess, around 2 years ago. Uh, back then I didn't have Unreal. We didn't have Unreal Engine 5, and there was no Lumen. There was no path tracing available. So this was purely done with real-time ray tracing. This isn't even screen-space reflections and stuff. So I did have to do a lot of lighting because I wouldn't get the same kind of global illumination the way we get it in path traced or Lumen. So even in this scene, I had to trick a lot in order to get more light into the scene and the way I wanted it to be. So usually the glass is one of the biggest challenges in Unreal Engine. And back then, if you look at the windows, the glass isn't looking quite right. So that's something I learned later on. But so the challenging part were the glass, and I think even the biggest challenge was the mostly the glass, because even in few of the shots, uh, it kind of, you get to see that the glass isn't looking great, but after a point I did not work on that. But so yeah, so the translucency of the materials is quite a task. But yeah, but I figured that out later on. And what else? I think that was one of the biggest tasks, to be honest.
and the character was this. What happened there? Did you animate it? Did you create it? Did you download it? Was it you know?
Yeah. So basically, the main character is a metahuman. So Quixel, Epic Games has released the huge range of digital humans that you can use in Unreal Engine. So I picked one of those characters. So they also have a metahuman creator where you can customize it according to the way you want. So I use one of the characters from that. It's completely rigged. And then I used the rig in Unreal Engine and animated it hand by hand. So yeah, it was quite a task to get this done because there's so many keyframing that was happening. It was crazy. It just took me hours just to get simple animations, because I had to make it look not like a digital human. It shouldn't look jittery. So I did put quite a lot of time into getting those tiny details in the animation. I'm not an animation artist. I really don't do character animation, but uh, as it was my film, I decided that I should do it. Like, I had to do it.
So when you used MetaHuman, would you recommend it as like, is it a easy easy thing for someone to get into, or would you recommend just jumping into another character using Mixamo, or what's your suggestions?
Oh, good question. So the thing with metahumans is that they're really high quality. They've got 8K textures, and it kind of looks real. I mean, they're still working on it, but it's a really good product. Like, it just comes out of the package. It's completely rigged. It has really high quality texture. There's subsurface scattering. It has really good hair. Uh, it has all that you need to to create a human character. And the thing is, you can customize the metahumans even more further. You can change the clothes. Even if you want to add a Mixamo animation, there are different tutorials which tell you how to retarget the animations. So you can get the Mixamo animations on the metahuman body. And then again, you have motion capture. You can use Rococo, Accents, and whatever. There are different workflows for those as well. And then again, if you don't have it, you also have an option to animate it by hand, which I wouldn't really recommend. But yeah, there's quite
Okay.
a lot of things that you can do with the metahuman. Even you can change the body type, facial features, hair, clothes, and even some people took it to the next level, and they were able to change the textures on their body. And they were adding decals and stuff, and morphing the face into completely different characters. So even that's possible now.
So You said you have been working in Unreal 5 as well now, right?
Yeah.
So in comparison to Unreal Engine 4.27 and Unreal Engine 5, are there certain challenges, difficulties, unfinished features in Unreal Engine 5 that you would like to give a heads up on to people in comparison to that is stable in Unreal Engine 4.27?
Okay, so I mean, in the preview phase of Unreal Engine 5, there were quite a lot of issues, and it's like these problems never existed and then they're suddenly there. Like when you're working on a project in 4.27, and the same way you're trying to do things in UE5, and then suddenly, something's not working out and you have no idea what's happening. So I mean, it did happen in the preview 1 and 2, but so now that they have released UE5, I believe that there are still issues with UE5. Even though it's production ready, people have to look out on those as well. I mean, I can't pinpoint as to where you might get it. It just, they're very random bugs in the software. You won't get those kind of bugs in 4.27. But again, 4.27 is production ready for virtual production. Even I think they have made UE5 production ready for UE5 as well. Uh, but people really need to look out as to what the project needs. If you don't need a Lumen, you should just go on with using 4.27. That's the best bet for you. If you're baking scenes, uh, you can stick with 4.27 for now and just wait for a while to use Unreal Engine 5 for the other things. One of the biggest feature that Unreal Engine added was the path tracing in 4.27 as well as in UE5. But uh, the the two issues is that uh, it doesn't support volumetric fog, and that's kind of a letdown because it's one of the most important part of any scene in Unreal Engine. That the fog, if they introduced to being able to render fog in path traced, I think that would definitely be a game changer. And one of the biggest problem with path tracing in 4.27 and Unreal Engine 5 is that you cannot render particles in path tracing. The reason why I'm focusing so much on path tracing is that most of the softwares, the DCC softwares like Maya and 3ds Max, Cinema 4D, Blender, they all have their render engines, offline render engines, and so Unreal is trying to get into that side as well, where people will can switch from these softwares to Unreal Engine, but they haven't fixed some of these basic things. But once they do that, I'm sure Unreal Engine is like an entire package where you can make films, you can make games, and practically whatever you need. It's a package in itself. Now you can model in Unreal Engine. There are editing tools for that as well.
All right. So, if someone was to try and focus more in being a real-time creative director, what are the
Yeah.
key skills you would recommend and advise them to maintain, pick up, and
Mhm.
learn?
Okay. So to be that, I believe you need to have a lot of knowledge when it comes to filmmaking. I mean, it's quite crucial for you to know how a camera works, how lighting works, and how composition and how the composition of the scene can help you tell the story. So basically, I can say that you need to know more about how to tell a story, or even if it's you're trying to create a 3D commercial, you need to have a vision of how you want it to look like. Uh, where what is the narrative behind it. So you need to be able to have that director in you who can uh, who knows the technical side of Unreal, a little bit of the technical side of Unreal Engine as well. But also mostly you got to be a better artist. You need to know how to light. You need to know how the textures work. You need to have like a overall knowledge of how to build a scene or how to use the cameras, basic basics of characters, and how to get them in Unreal, how to work on them. So in this way, that you're ready to create real time content. I mean, of course, it's a process because I did have a background in 3D animation and visual effects and films, so it became quite easier for me to mold myself by using Unreal Engine. But when it's someone new, it might be a bit of a difficult task. But I believe just because it's real time, they might be able to learn a lot faster because they can see the result, while it wasn't possible before in the DCC softwares.
Okay. So, what is your favorite thing to do then? Is it the cinematography part? Is it the lighting? Is it the set dressing? Because you're doing quite a bit on your own.
Yeah, so I actually like to do all three of those because it's all interdependent. So I love to design the set the way I want, and even the lighting, the camera. Can't say like any one thing is my favorite, but all three of these, because it's all completely dependent on each other, and I don't really stop until I get what I want. So I try to do all of it by myself.
Mm. So, when you have this type of environment, how picky are you? Like, are you doing a general environment for the story, or are you being a bit particular where the hammer is and where the other hammer is, where the splotches of light's gonna be, and the camera angle obviously tilted up, and all these details, the key being here, the gloves, um, are they very consciously placed all the time, or are there any cases in this environment where you just put it there because it looked nice, and that's about it?
Yeah, so as I said, the story came after. So before I had like a can't say a generic garage, but it has a specific look to it. But all the details that you see, like the key or the hammers and even these small cars you can see in front. So these were all added according to the story, because that's what the story needed. I wanted to tell about the relationship of the main character with his dad, and how he used to be here when he was a kid. And that's why I had to put some toys over there to show that he used to see his dad working in the garage, and he used to play alongside. So every single detail and small object that you see in the film has a reason, and it was consciously added. And there were some elements which are a part of like what a garage should look like. So it's a combination of objects for the generic garage, and a lot of things are added later on, according to the story. Yeah.
Right. And when you do this type of work, and you do your shot lighting, I'm assuming you are doing specific lighting for each shot. uh, do you turn off any light because it's interrupting with your shot, or is it like the sunlight? Is it always on because it fits in every shot, or do you actually turn it off? Because that's the advantage of using real-time lighting. Obviously, is that you also can easily turn it off. Versus if it was baked, you would still see some traces of it, right?
Yeah, so good question. So for this scene specifically, I did not need to place more lights into the scene according to the shots. I tried to keep it like this one scene. I wanted to light properly so that it looks great in every single shot. So in this film specifically, uh, I don't. There weren't any extra lighting for individual shots. There might be one or two instances, but not more than that.
So does that mean how many lights do you have in this environment?
Okay, so it's probably one, two, three, five, six, seven. I'm sure there were like eight lights in the scene. So there were top lights as well because the roof was open. Of course, I did not show in the scene, but otherwise the garage would be too dark. So yeah, I mean, I had to make the scene quite visible as well, but I had to have some, shadows as well, to make the scene look much better. And I mean, I try to have that balance on the way it should look like. So I believe there were around 8 lights in the scene. There's some coming from the windows as well. And so yeah, again, so I had to put lights near the windows as well to get some more light.
So the lights and the hammer on the left side and the branch, are those extra lights to, break up the shadow, or did you put one specific light that does all of that on the table?
All right, so there were two shadows at the two lights at the top, and there was a metal grill on top of it, and there were trees outside the garage. So if you can see some shadow on the table, it's probably because of the tree branch or the leaves probably. So just to get that, a natural look to it of the shadows coming from the sun from the top, and the rest of the lights are pretty much from the left side, the windows and the sun. I might have placed a few more lights. I just don't remember it because I did it quite a while ago.
Yeah. How about the reflections? Is that something where you increase the effect for it to kind of get it very reflective, or do you keep it at default level?
Okay, so for this, for all these reflections and materials, I used the automotive pack by Epic Games. So it was pretty much set in terms of reflections. I mean, I did try to fiddle around with the reflections, but I mean, there's not much customization that went into it. I tried to keep it, as the default settings for the materials and the reflections of the car. If you can notice, the thing that I mentioned before, the headlights, you can see, the glass isn't quite visible. So I mean, that was one of the biggest tasks to get things sorted. And in some of the shots, even when, let's say, a windshield of the car behind was defocused, it was visible in the render of the shot. So there were translucency issues in my scene. It took me a while to get that sorted back then, but yeah.
So when you're doing rendering, um, what are the things that can happen or challenges that happens during rendering in Unreal Engine that might not be obvious or visible if you just do a screenshot or if you just walk through the level? Because I've heard people do rendering in Unreal Engine and then they have specific problem because of the technology of the rendering engine. Have you ever stumbled upon something that's like it's a problem because you're rendering out?
Yeah, I mean, I did encounter a few problems, especially. So there were two rendering options in Unreal Engine. One is the movie render queue, which is the latest, and then there's this legacy renderer. So legacy renderer is the fastest one, but again, you won't get a lot of details, and the footage kind of looks jittery. Can't say noisy, but there are a lot of artifacts, and maybe it's because it was rendering so fast. And then the other option was the movie render queue, which is the latest. I think, I mean, it was available back then also, 2 years ago. So few more things that caused a lot of problems was, the movie render queue was amazing. It was able to render with great detail, and there's no loss in terms of, yeah, there were no loss in the details. But when I rendered it, the final output, there were shines and shimmers in the renders all over the footage. And that was one of the biggest problem that I encountered while rendering movie render queue in I think I don't remember the version this was done in, but uh, that was the problem that popped in back then.
Cool. And how much color grading do you do in your project? After or before or during? Do you do any color grading post process to make it warmer or white balancing it, or do you
Yeah.
do anything in DaVinci Resolve or anything? What's your post
Yeah.
production workflow?
Oh, so I mean, sometimes I do a little bit of color grading in Unreal Engine, but most of it I try to do it later on when I get the final render out. So I usually do it in Premiere with the Lumetri color. I try not to do a lot of post processing because I usually try to get the lighting and whatever I want perfect in the scene itself. So then later on, I don't have to, put a lot of filter into it or color grade.
Okay, that's good. I also try actually to avoid depending a lot about post grading. I try not to do it, even though
Yeah,
in the project I'm working on now, it's very stylized, so we kind of have to. But
yeah,
generally, I try not to use a lot of post grading, if any, if at all. We were actually talking about that in yesterday's interview as well about post grading and when to do it, and people have different opinion basically. So let's talk a little bit about also your everyday workflow or routine. How does your average week or month look like? Like, are you doing freelancing a lot, or are you also studying on the side? Are you doing a different job on the side? What's your everyday
mm,
schedule? Because you are obviously having to keep up with the technology and doing all of this
yeah,
on top of
yeah.
everything.
All right. So I've been doing freelance since the past 2 months now, and I'm also proud to announce that I'm actually starting my own studio with a few more people. Completely focused on content in Unreal Engine, whether that is commercials or narrative content. So my week or a month, it probably looks like so I'm working. So as I'm working freelance, so I'm usually working from my home. Uh, it depends on the project to project, what how much time that I put into it, and most of these projects are commercials. Or now that I'm getting into narrative content, we're starting to create a small animation series, but done right in Unreal Engine. So it's not quite advanced as what Netflix does, but it is very client specific. So my day is basically right now that we are trying to set up our studio, and we have a lot of clients on board who want stuff done in Unreal Engine, and so that's what we're doing right now. That's what's my focus right now.
So, what's your biggest challenge right now that you feel you have doing all of these projects and freelance and the companies? Maybe there's someone out there that can help you. This is also networking opportunity for you as well. Is there any challenges, any people you're looking for?
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good question. So the biggest challenge that I have is that uh, as I'm working in India, what I see is that there are very few people in India who are using Unreal Engine for stuff the way I do, and it's hard to come across really talented people who want to use Unreal Engine to for cinematic content and narrative or commercial, and it's quite a task to find people like that. And so that's one of my biggest challenge because I really need people in my team who would love to do stuff like this, because there are a lot of exciting projects that are coming on board. And so that's the biggest challenge. But one solution to it is that we are willing to teach people that that come learn with us, and you can also work with us. So we would really like to know people who have the talent, who have the skill, who probably don't know Unreal Engine in this much detail, but who have the vision. So that's what I'm seeking right now at this moment.
And they have to live where, somewhere specific, or they have to be Indian, or is there any rules or requirements?
There are not really any requirements as such. You can work remotely as well. I mean, it's a great thing if we find someone who can work with us live at our studio, which we are trying to set up. That's a bonus for us as well. It's just easier to get things sorted. But again, we are open to people around the world who want to do this. And we are quite excited on this to get on this journey right now, of this real time journey. Yeah,
That's good. I mean, it's obviously exciting time out there, I think, right?
yeah, it is. Yeah,
And there's a lot of opportunities out there as well. Um, you should talk to one of the other people we talked to, Jeffy. I think his name was. I think it is in South India though, but he's like into the same thing as you. So maybe you two can team up and do something. He's done a couple of things already quite successfully as well. So I think you
yeah,
two would be very suitable collaborators.
yeah,
I'll let him know about you and you about him, and you can team up.
yeah. Sure.
Um, is there any advice you have for any aspiring lighting artists specifically? Because obviously you're doing lighting as well a lot on all of your projects, and there are problems, there are challenges, and I'm sure you looked at our station, you looked at other people's work, and
Yeah.
you've gone, maybe it's missing something, or there's something up. Do you have anything that's obviously personal to you, but that you are a firm believer of that is a good advice for someone?
Well, I don't think I have any extraordinary advice, but I believe people should, take a lot of interest and watch a lot of animation films. Especially animation films, because there's a lot of lighting that goes into it, especially if you watch Disney and DreamWorks films. You know the kind of lighting that goes into it, that it's for every emotion, whatever they're trying to tell, there's a different lighting for it. uh, I believe if you watch a lot of them, you kind of subconsciously imbibe those ideas in your head, and you might be able to use them in your own projects as well. So I believe people should watch a lot of animation films, watch films, live action films, even play video games. You get to learn a lot from video games because you're in the 3D space. You can explore, you can look around how the artists have worked in it. uh, you got to make the effort. You got to put it in to learn, like why would they do this kind of lighting, or why did they use a light over here, what are they trying to say. So it's there's a lot of self learning that's to happen, and I believe people do miss on a lot of things when I see show reels of a lot of people. And I believe they need to put some more effort into working on the lighting, especially you need to also check out the concept art done by a lot of artists around the world. You get to learn a lot of from that as well. So so yeah, this is a simple advice, nothing extraordinary, and yeah.
That's cool. Um, what's your Twitter handle if you have it?
I Yeah, I have it, but I don't really use Twitter much.
Okay, cool. Do you have an Instagram people can follow?
Yeah, I do have an Instagram, so it's hp_films.
Films.
hp_films. So I put a lot of my stuff on Instagram, everything that I create. Some of the things that maybe you couldn't see or check it out in my reel, but there are a lot of stuff that I posted on Instagram as well. Maybe I can share and show some stuff as well on my Instagram, if we have the time.
Yeah, you can share your screen and I can put it up.
Okay, so I'll share my screen.
You can talk through it and
Yeah.
remember to click the button. I add you right here.
All right.
I don't
So,
see all this button.
can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So the most recent one was, I was trying to experiment with the city scene, the Matrix city scene that Epic Games, um, gave it like free of cost to everyone to use it in all the projects and experiment with. So I wanted to try out some Spider-Man stuff. So I went right ahead, got Spider-Man model, got some Examo animations, and put him in the scene just to see how it might look in Unreal Engine. So that's there. And then this was something I did in Unreal Engine 5. I wanted to recreate the bridge scene from Spider-Man No Way Home. So it's not exactly the same, but I wanted to try it how it would look in UE5. So I did not spend a lot of time on it, but I was able to get this done in 2 days. So I mean, I see a lot of tremendous potential for UE5 uh, in cinema and also visual effects. Like so many things that weren't possible before are now possible right now, but in real time.
Yeah, makes sense.
And
Um,
yeah.
no, keep showing.
Yeah, so this is just one of the automotive stuff that I did. It was for Xiaomi India, and yeah, this was also quite hand animated, right in Unreal Engine. So I mean, people can definitely check out my Instagram profile. I post a lot of my artworks over here, and
And
yeah.
and and you're not always replying back on time, right?
Actually, I've been really busy in the past 2 months because of my marriage, and there was a lot of pressure with work. So it was quite a task for me to reply to a lot of people. Uh,
Well,
but
at
yeah,
least at least now they know why.
yeah, and when it's India, the marriage, it's quite stressful. There are a lot
Of
of things,
course.
lots of events.
Yeah, it's fun though. I'm sure it's gonna help you do even more work, more better stuff, inspiration. That's a good thing to ask though, because you are in India, and obviously Indian marriage is very different. Indian Bollywood movies are kind of different. We like a lot of color. There's normally a lot of musicals in it, which I personally don't want to lose. I like movies with some musical dancing and singing in it. Uh, do you have any inspiration references that is specifically Bollywood oriented? Because a lot of people, they have like Hollywood movies as reference, Hollywood
Mhm.
cinematographers reference. But do you have anyone that maybe most likely people don't know about because it's from the Bollywood and Indian cinematography and
Yeah.
photography? Is there anyone you would like to mention for people to look up?
So for me, I mean, I didn't have a lot of inspiration coming from Bollywood in what I was trying to do, but now that we are opening up ourselves to the Indian market in terms of promoting Unreal Engine and cinematic and narrative content, I'm really looking forward to try to create regional Indian cinema in Unreal Engine. Uh, and I want to do something, like I can compete with Disney, but right here I'm doing it in India, but with the help of Unreal Engine, and I believe it's possible. It just and as you said, like when it comes to Bollywood, I would love to get those elements again, trying to create films which talk about the people over here, their stories. Not many people know, the stuff that happens over here, or the intricacies in relationships, and there's so many things in there's such a huge and diverse country, like there are a
Yeah,
billion stories to tell, right?
exactly. That's
Yeah,
true, and I'm sure we'll see some of it from you as well. I'm looking forward to it.
yeah,
We've reached our 1 hour mark, and this is just a
yeah.
reminder for everyone watching about Lighting Bot community. If you want to have a portfolio review, please let us know. We don't do it every time now because it's taking me a lot of energy to organize stuff and maintain it. So it's really upon request. We do some highlights, or mostly on Instagram now. But if you want to be highlighted, keep in track, share stuff on our Discord, and we might do a call out. For the time being, we do have a Unity tutorial in our channel, which might or might not be removed and put into a paid course eventually. You can go to courses.lightingbot.com if you want a PBR based, exposure based, kind of realistic tutorial on how to do lighting. And there's a lot of interviews in our channels, probably one of the largest one on YouTube at the moment when it comes to specific lighting and cinematography for lighting. So please have a look around and watch. We are having a lighting challenge again, probably after summer. I don't know. You guys need to tell me when you're available. Who knows? Maybe I can get Harshal to join too, and he'll do something fun as well. Probably go even more overboard and add some story to it and whatnot. But that would be cool as well. And a reminder, we do provide lighting mentorship. It's $250 per month, and you get access to 4 hours a month, and you also get access to guest mentors. So really, you're paying for multiple mentors. So it is the only offer I know for a fact on the internet that offers you multiple mentors for such a low price. So something for you guys to consider, and we'll also try and recruit the person if you have someone specific you're interested in. With that said, Harshal, I'm very pleased to have had you as a guest, and it has been a pleasure talking to you. And I hope if we ever do a roundtable with more people, maybe you have time to join and we can talk even more
Yeah,
as a
for
freely
sure.
as a conversation. And
Yeah,
by now you're
I
probably
would love to
comfortable,
have
right?
that. Yeah.
So
Thanks a lot, Amit, for having me on the show. And yeah, I think so. See you guys, and
yeah,
we'll be
and you're on
joining.
Discord, right? So what we're gonna do, we're
Yeah,
gonna say wave goodbye, and if you have any questions, I think he is HP on Discord in our channel. You can probably ask some questions if you didn't get
yeah.
any up right now.
Free
And
to
yeah, thanks
ask
for watching,
questions. Yeah.
and have a good Sunday. And
Uh,
I'll talk to Harshal a little bit